временном перемирии нашу позицию изложил по поводу того, что это не что иное, как временная передышка для украинских военных, больше ничего. И мы считаем, что наша цель все-таки это долгосрочное мирное урегулирование. Мы к этому стремимся. Мирное урегулирование, которое учитывает законные интересы нашей страны, наши озабоченности известные.
Не ориентируемся на те публичные заявления, которые были сделаны, мы их анализируем, но мы рассматриваем их как именно публичную риторику.
Сергей Викторович.
Самый радужный.
This is my video update on this Thursday midday, March the 13th. Coming to you from Athens, Greece. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with some breaking news, at least at the time of recording this video. And that is that Lukashenko will be traveling to Moscow. He will be meeting with Putin. After the meeting, they will hold a press conference. And the reports are that during this press conference, Putin will respond to the 30-day ceasefire offer from the United States. That is the news that we are getting. It's not definite, but it seems likely that Putin is going to talk about the 30-day ceasefire. Most likely, it'll be in the form of a question from a reporter, a planted question from a reporter to set up Putin's answer to the 30-day ceasefire. And most likely, he will reject the 30-day ceasefire offer. But I think he's going to reject it in a very diplomatic way. And if I had to take a guess, I would say that Putin's going to say that Russia is not interested in the ceasefire. As per their multiple statements that they've made over the past 6 months, they've said over and over again that they're not interested in a ceasefire, and they're interested in a resolution to the root causes of the problem. That's what he's going to say, or something like that. And then I imagine that Putin is going to say we reject the ceasefire, but we are always open to negotiations and talks with the United States. That's going to be his response, if I had to take a guess as to what he's going to say, if he does indeed say something about the offer. It's not a guarantee that he's going to respond to the 30-day ceasefire offer, but most likely something's going to happen. So Putin was in Kursk yesterday, and he was wearing military camouflage green. He looked very fit, actually. Looks like Putin has lost some weight. Looked very, very fit, very energetic. Went to Kursk, met with Gerasimov. Said some very interesting things. Simplicius the Thinker says 3 most interesting statements from Camo Putin. Camo Putin. Interesting nickname. Very interesting nickname. The last time that Putin wore the camo was in 2022. I believe that was the last time when Russia was holding military exercises. And then the partial mobilization happened. So this is definitely a signal that he's wearing the camouflage. Maybe this is his way of sending a signal to Trump, to the United States, after the meeting in Jeddah with the 30-day ceasefire. That could be his way of signaling a rejection to the ceasefire, or a soon-to-be verbal statement rejection to the ceasefire. It also could be a way of Putin signaling that something big is going to happen in the conflict with Ukraine. Very possible. Not a good sign for the collective West, for the United States, for the Elensky regime, when they see Putin wearing the camo green. Not a good sign at all. But the nickname is good, Camo Putin. I like it. I like it. Podolyak. Podolyak. Why Putin get this nickname, Camo Putin, when he wears green outfit? When he put on green costume and I get name Green Goblin. I like Camo Putin. Camo Elensky, good nickname. I don't like Green Goblin, Podolyak. Maybe time to wear a suit and tie. What you think, Podolyak? Yes, Mr. President. I think it is time to wear a suit. Absolutely. There are reports from the Financial Times where they claim that the end is near for Elensky. The end is near. A lot of powerful people in Kiev, a lot of parliament members and other officials told the Financial Times that they're very frustrated and very angry with Zelensky, and it's time for him to go. Interesting report from the Financial Times. Anyway, let's get back to Simplicius the Thinker's post on X. The three most important statements from Camo Putin. Number one, mercenaries are not protected by Geneva Convention. Number two, the AFU who commit massacres in Kursk will be treated as terrorists. And number three, suggested to Gerasimov to create a security zone beyond Kursk border, i.e. Sumy buffer. That's already happening, the buffer in Sumy. From what I understand, Russia has a pretty good foothold in Sumy. And if they create this buffer in Sumy, then they're very close to Kiev. Very close to Kiev. And that has got to be freaking out NATO, the collective West, and especially Elensky. But some very, very strong statements from Putin towards the Ukraine military that was operating in Kursk. They will be treated as terrorists. And foreign mercenaries, well, foreign mercenaries that have been captured or that will be captured are screwed. Big time screwed. Gerasimov said that Kursk, the Ukrainian forces in Kursk, are encircled. 86% of Kursk region's territory previously held by Ukraine has been liberated, according to Gerasimov. And he also put the number of casualties from Elensky's Kursk catastrophe, the total casualties, at over 67,000, as well as thousands and thousands of vehicles and NATO equipment that has been destroyed. 67,000, that is a massive number. He also said that 430 Ukraine soldiers have been captured or surrendered so far. What a massive debacle for the Green Goblin. The biggest debacle to date for the Elensky regime. They talked about the pipeline as well. That was an interesting statements from Gerasimov and from Putin about the pipeline operation. The clandestine raid, dubbed by the media as Operation Potok Flow, marked a shift from the prolonged positional phase in Kursk. A specially trained unit infiltrated Ukrainian positions by moving through an abandoned gas pipeline that once transported Russian gas to Europe until Kiev shut it down on January 1st, 2025. The actions came as a surprise to the enemy and contributed to the collapse of its defenses and the development of our offensive in the Kursk region, Gerasimov added. The assault team of this combined formation, numbering more than 600 people, used a gas transmission pipe to cover a distance of about 15 kilometers and infiltrate the combat formations of the armed forces of Ukraine, Gerasimov reported. Yeah, all of this came about because the European Union and Elensky decided to shut off the gas transit. The gas transit that went from Russia through Ukraine to Slovakia. Should have listened to Fico Elensky, Fico was telling you, don't shut off the gas. We need the gas. We need the oil. Whatever. We need it. We need the pipeline operating. Gas pipeline, right? Yeah, gas pipeline, not oil pipeline. I'm thinking of the druzhba. No, the gas pipeline. And Zelensky and the European Union said, no, shut it down. Tatters. The Russian economy tatters, I tell you. We must make Ukraine into a steel porcupine. Shut down the gas. Shut it down. Yeah, and so they shut it all down, and 600 freaking soldiers, man. 15 kilometers. I was thinking 12 kilometers. 15 kilometers. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So speaking about Elensky, he decided to give a press conference after the talks in Jeddah between Yermak and Rubio and Waltz, talks for which Elensky was not invited. He was shut out of these talks. He's very upset. It showed that he was very upset. That's why he called a press conference right afterwards and wanted to reassert his dominance, his presidency. Wanted to make it clear that he's still in charge, even though the United States prohibited him from being at these talks. And so Elensky wanted the spotlight to be back on him. So he calls his press conference. I have to tell you, it looks like Elensky went into his special stash because he was a wreck. And boy, was he talking some trash, man. He was talking some serious trash. Well, he was spoiling. Actually, what he was doing is he was spoiling and sabotaging the conversations that are about to take place between the United States and Russia. So I imagine the Trump team, after they saw Zelensky's performance, they're not too happy about everything he said, because what he said is almost certain to alarm the Kremlin. They're going to look at everything Zelensky said, and as Witkoff is traveling to Moscow, I believe today he's going to be meeting with Putin, and he's going to be presenting the 30-day ceasefire plan. I imagine the Kremlin's going to tell Witkoff, yeah, this is all interesting, where we're not going to agree to a 30-day ceasefire plan, but maybe we can talk about other stuff. But what are you going to do about the clown in Kiev? Did you listen to his press conference yesterday? That's what the Kremlin's going to tell Witkoff, and Witkoff's going to probably just be shaking his head going, I know, what can we do? We got to get rid of this guy. How do we get rid of this guy, Mr. Putin? Give us some ideas. But Zelensky said during this press conference, we are fighting for our independence. Therefore, we will not recognize any territories occupied by Russia. So there will be no ceding of territories, which is what Rubio was hinting at before the negotiations, even though we got reports that territories were not discussed during the negotiations. The Trump White House actually said that they are talking about territories. I don't know what's going on with the territories. Obviously, there's going to have to be some major, big territorial concessions. If you go by the Istanbul Plus terms, which is what Russia's going to demand at a minimum, they're going to demand Istanbul Plus. That means that Ukraine has to leave all of the entirety of Zaporozhye and Kherson, Lugansk, Donetsk, all of it. The Ukraine has to go. But Elensky said, no, we're not going to agree to any of this stuff.
Prepare for a war plan to end the war. A fully faceted plan with guarantees, security guarantees for the Ukrainian side. If everything of it is done, after the plan is prepared, after there is a phased implementation of it, it will lead to the end of war. And after the end of war, it would be only logical to lift the martial law, and after that, the elections will go within the meaning of the Ukrainian legislation. No one will specially postpone them.
So yeah, Witkoff to present ceasefire deal to Russia this week. Actually today, I believe he will be in Moscow. And I think he's going to meet with Putin later this afternoon, probably after the press conference with Lukashenko. That would be my guess. Witkoff is then going to be meeting with Putin. Steve Witkoff, the president's special envoy, is making his way to Moscow this week to urge the Russians to sign on to this negotiation, Levitt told Fox News on Wednesday. The Russians will tell Witkoff, no ceasefire. We don't need a ceasefire. First of all, we don't need a ceasefire to negotiate. What kind of nonsense is this? We don't need a ceasefire to negotiate and talk. So let's talk. Let's figure this out. You know our terms. We've been spelling out our terms since June of 2024. You know what they are. Let's talk about it. We don't need a ceasefire. And Elensky's going to have to go. Elensky's going to have to go. Sanctions are going to have to be lifted. And you know the rest of Istanbul Plus. That's what they're going to tell Witkoff. So what was going on in the Trump White House yesterday? They were also talking about the 30-day ceasefire plan. They're stuck on the 30-day ceasefire. For some reason, the ceasefire thing has embedded itself in Trump's mind, in his team's minds. They're stuck on a ceasefire. So what Russia's going to have to do is they're going to have to break this whole ceasefire spell that has taken them over. It's not important. They're going to tell the United States that ceasefire is not something that needs to be discussed. There's been many negotiations in the past during a conflict that have taken place where you didn't need a 30-day ceasefire to begin the negotiations. The ceasefire is something that is a result of the negotiations, not something that is a condition before negotiations get started. But the Trump White House is still pushing the ceasefire thing. It's a hangover. I think the ceasefire thing is a hangover from Kellogg and his ceasefire proposal in April. But that's what I think is going on. So they're stuck on a ceasefire. It's also something that Trump can take to the American people to show that he's making progress. He can say, I got a 30-day ceasefire. It plays well. That narrative plays well for Trump. But let's see what they were talking about at the White House. Trump reveals Elensky U-turn. The U.S. president has said Kiev has changed its tune since his spat with the Ukrainian leader in the Oval Office. Had somebody that didn't seem to want peace. Now he's agreed to peace, so we'll see what happens. Trump said of Elensky, who was president in Saudi Arabia, but did not personally take part in the negotiations. Yeah, that's what Trump said in the White House, but I wonder if he's seen the press conference that Elensky gave after the Jeddah talks. Yeah, I don't think Trump's going to be very happy with Elensky's performance yesterday. Not happy at all. But what does Elensky care? If you're Elensky, what do you care? You're probably thinking, you know what? I can go to the United States. I can go to the Oval Office. I can disrespect President Trump. I can disrespect Vice President Vance. And I still get invited back to the White House. So Elensky probably doesn't give a flying F. Politico is reporting that Team Trump forms united front to pressure Russia on Ukraine. Trump upped the stakes Wednesday, threatening economic penalties as a lever to pressure Russia into a deal. I can do things financially. It would be very bad for Russia, he told reporters. I don't want to do that because I want to get peace, adding that he could exert pressure in a financial sense that would be devastating for Russia. Yeah, the pressure that Trump would put on Russia, maybe it might hurt Russia, whatever he might want to do, like crashing the oil price or trying to crash the oil price. Maybe it puts some pressure on Russia in the short term, but Russia will figure it out. The Russian economy then will continue to grow. Russia will continue to get closer to China, if that's even possible. I don't know how much closer can you get at this point, but that relationship will just be strengthened. BRICS will be strengthened, and the U.S. economy will be hurt. And the European economy will probably be hurt more than anybody else because Europe always pays the price for the ramping up of any sanctions. But any sanctions that Trump puts against Russia is just going to boomerang right back at the Trump administration, at the United States, and at the collective West. There's nothing he can do. All he can do is threaten. Well, there is stuff that he can do. He can crash the oil price. Maybe he can do some other stuff like going to the global south or to BRICS partners and threaten tariffs if they continue to support Russia or something like that. But no cards. You have no cards, Trump. And I think he realizes it. Empty threats is what he's making, or at least threats that will result in nothing. Anyway, that is what Trump said at the White House. Stammer, he is trying to take credit for the ceasefire deal in Saudi Arabia. 008 Stammer, you sly dog. 008 trying to take credit for the 30-day ceasefire deal. How Stammer saved Ukraine's ceasefire as Trump and Elensky raged. The UK Prime Minister and his top security advisors worked intensively to rescue the broken relationship between Kiev and Washington, drafting a truce plan that might one day pave the way for peace. Yeah, so this is a puff post from USAID sponsored Politico, where they go into all of the wheeling and that Stammer was engaged in after the meltdown in the White House, the Elensky meltdown in the White House. And basically, Stammer is claiming credit for the deal that was agreed on in Jeddah. And the article, I'll just summarize the article. It says that Stammer was speaking with Trump, then he was speaking with Elensky, and then one of his advisors flew to Kiev, I believe his defense minister. They flew to Kiev. They talked with the Elensky regime, and they came up with a proposal that was the Stammer-Macron no-fly zone plan, without pushing the U.S. backstop. Don't press too hard on the U.S. Backstop of that no-fly zone plan. But instead of, basically they front-loaded the ceasefire. Instead of the ceasefire happening at the end of 30 days, where then UK and French troops would go into Ukraine, they negotiated with Zelensky for the ceasefire to take place right away. The minute the plan is agreed on, then you have the no-fly zone, you have no ships in the Black Sea, you have no long-range missile strikes, you have all of that stuff, but you also have an immediate ceasefire where the Stammer-Macron plan envisaged a ceasefire happening after 30 days when after 30 days of enforcing the no-fly zone, then the UK and French troops come in and then you have a ceasefire. That's basically the gist of what Stammer negotiated with Elensky. It didn't need trips to Kiev. It didn't need hours and hours of diplomacy. This could have been figured out in 5 minutes. But they paint the picture of this massive British diplomacy that took place in order to get Elensky to agree with Rubio and Waltz. And the interesting part about this puff piece from Politico is that in the statement yesterday from Rubio and Waltz, they make it clear that the ceasefire plan, the 30-day immediate ceasefire plan, was their initiative. This was the initiative of the United States, not the initiative of anybody else. And now you have Stammer coming in and claiming credit for the ceasefire plan. He wants to make himself to be an important prime minister. Stammer is an important guy, everybody. He's 008, licensed to bore you. Keir Stammer, he is important. He's very important. He's wheeling and dealing. In fact, Stammer had begun working privately on a solution. His reaction was to pick up the phone, not reach for Twitter. His reaction was to pick up the phone, not reach for Twitter. So ridiculous, man. It's so ridiculous. Where was I? His reaction was to pick up the phone, not reach for Twitter. According to one person familiar with the situation, Stammer held calls with both Trump and Elensky and started working on a plan. That's his style, the person said. I love that line. That's his style. That's the way Stammer rolls. He's all about action. He's all about wheeling and dealing. That's his style. Keir Stammer, 008. License to bore you. What an awesome prime minister, that Keir Stammer. What an amazing diplomat. Oh, boy. And the person that was behind all of this, according to Politico, that was working with Stammer very closely, was his chief of staff, who was the guy who had some sort of consulting firm or some sort of think tank that sent 100 consultants to the United States, to Michigan, in order to help Kamala Harris get elected. That was the guy that was involved in all of this. I forgot the dude's name. But anyway, that was the puff piece from Politico. Complete nonsense from Politico and from number 10, Stammer, Keir Stammer. So we got a tariff war that's brewing, that has begun actually, between the EU and the United States. And the European Union, they have placed tariffs on the US. The bloc will impose countermeasures on $28 billion worth of US goods starting next month. In a press release issued on Wednesday, the Commission condemned Trump's unjustified and disruptive tariffs, warning of their impact on transatlantic trade. The EU's executive arm said it would impose counter tariffs on $26 billion, over $28 billion worth of US goods starting in April. Tariffs are taxes. They are bad, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said. We will build a steel porcupine around Europe's tariffs. We will build a steel porcupine tariff. I can't take anything that Ursula says serious anymore. All I hear whenever Ursula makes a speech or gives a statement, the only thing that I'm hearing in my head is tatters. That's all I hear. Tatters, washing machines, tatters. Let's do some clown worlds, and we'll wrap this video up. We'll just go through some mainstream media article titles, which are funny, clownish, interesting. Newsweek, they have an article with the title, Ukraine losing its trump card as Russian troops enter Kursk stronghold. Ukraine losing its trump card. Its bargaining chip. Yep, bargaining chip has gone bye-bye. From the CBC, the U.S. has covertly destabilized nations. With Canada, it's being done in public. Intelligence experts say young, economically vulnerable people would be likely targets. So the CBC in this article, they're saying that the United States is trying to destabilize Canada with all of their tariffs and all of the posts that Trump is putting out there about the 51st state. And they even mention how Elon Musk is also trying to destabilize Canada. And the title to this article is very, very interesting, huh? Not much self-awareness from Canada from the collective West, with this title. The U.S. has covertly destabilized nations, it says. You mean like Syria and Iraq and Libya and Ukraine, Maidan 2014, CBC? You mean like what happened in 2014 at the Maidan? Is that what you mean by destabilizing nations? And now you're upset that it's happening to Canada and it's happening out in the open? Any more out in the open than Maidan Square with Lindsey Graham and Sikorsky and all of these guys, Newland passing out cookies and giving speeches at Maidan Square? Was that out in the open, CBC, or was that on the down low? I don't know. You tell me, CBC, what's going on. Politico has an article with the title, Brussels is honored Canadians want to join the EU, but says it won't happen. The EU says it is flattered by poll results, but calls on Canada to fight Trump's tariffs hand in hand. This survey conducted by Abacus Data in late February found that 44% of Canadian respondents believe their country should join the EU, while 34% oppose the idea. A broader question on general support for joining the bloc drew 46% approval. Those sentiments drew bemused appreciation from Brussels. Oh, great. Everyone wants to join the EU, you see? Everyone wants to join the EU. You're going to have Van der Leyen and Kaja Kallas. And that new guy, what's that new guy's name? Costa? That guy's pretty much a no-show, huh? That took over for Michel. They're going to be sitting around in Brussels HQ, all happy about the fact that Canada wants to join the European Union, according to this poll. You see, everyone wants to be in the EU. I told you, everyone wants to be in the EU. Tatters, I tell you. What do you think, stunning and brave, Kaja Kallas? Yes, everyone wants to join the EU, everyone. Even Canada wants to join the EU. Oh, boy. Oh, man. What else in clown world land? Romania lashes out at Russia as Georgescu election ban furor intensifies. Romania's foreign ministry said Russia is in no position to give lessons in democracy after Moscow criticized Bucharest for banning ultranationalist Călin Georgescu from presidential election do-over. Russia has not had free elections for almost 20 years. An aggressive state cannot give lessons in democracy, the ministry said, the foreign ministry of Romania. So just so we understand how clownish the Romanian government has become, or is or has become, how clownish they are. They're not upset at the European Union for subverting, disrupting, canceling their election and their democracy. They're not upset at the European Union. Who they're upset at is Russia for calling out the fact that the European Union canceled their democracy. It's Russia's fault. Not the EU's fault. We're not upset with the EU. We're upset that the Russian government actually called us out on the subversion of our democracy. That's what we're upset at. One more clown world, we'll wrap the video up. From disclose.tv, Michelle Obama's new podcast, IMO, gets only 12,000 views in 14 hours despite mass marketing campaigns. Michelle Obama has a podcast? I didn't know that. Some titles here. Some friendships need to go with Issa Rae, and Michelle Obama and Craig Robinson start a podcast. Only 2 podcasts, that's it to date. 14,000 views. 12,000 views, sorry, in 14 hours with lots of marketing. Yeah, that's not the point of the podcast. The point of the podcast is that Michelle Obama, the Obamas, get millions and millions in marketing dollars, right? They get all of these marketing companies to pour in all of this money into their podcast company. And that's the payoff for 8 years of being a faithful servant to the globalist agenda. That's how this works, right? I don't think it's about building a viable podcast business. No. That's not how these things are done in DC. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. They're Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, like what I'm wearing in this video update, this Duran hoodie. You will find it in the Duran shop. Link in the description box down below. Take care.